You need to watch this if you struggle with sleepless nights. Ellie tossed and turned, her sheets tangled around her legs, trapping her in a restless cocoon. Another night. Sleep evaded her, leaving her staring at the ceiling, her mind racing with thoughts she couldn't quiet. Streetlights cast long, dancing shadows on her bedroom wall, creating eerie shapes that seemed to move on their own, adding to her unease. Each rustle of leaves outside her window sounded like footsteps creeping closer, making her heart race. A low hum vibrated in her ears, almost imperceptible but ever-present, like a distant whisper she couldn't ignore. Days blurred together, marked only by her growing exhaustion and gnawing unease, a constant reminder of her sleepless nights. She tried to rationalize her fear. An old house, settling. Creaks and groans in the night, nothing more. Imagination running wild. But deep down, a primal instinct whispered a warning she couldn't shake. Something was wrong. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, a chill running down her spine. Her eyes darted to the window, drawn by an unseen force, as shadows seemed to shift in the corners of the room, playing tricks on her mind. I don't think people understand the true terror of a whisper in the dark. Ellie sat bolt upright in bed, heart pounding, the hum intensified, morphing into a low scratching sound. She pulled the covers tight, her breath catching in her throat. It was just a branch, she told herself, swaying in the wind. Another tap, more insistent this time. Her name whispered, barely audible but unmistakable. Ellie! The blood drained from her face. More whispers, overlapping, growing louder. Ellie. Ellie. Unsettling noises filled the room, a mix of whispers and scratching. She scrambled back, pressing herself against the headboard, eyes fixed on the window, paranoia gripping her mind. Are you terrified to look out your window at night? Thick, swirling tendrils crept in, obscuring the streetlight. Ellie held her breath. A shape emerged, tall and slender, pressing against the glass. Two glowing eyes stared at her. The figure moved slowly, tapping rhythmically on the glass. Ellie's heart pounded. The figure's mouth twisted into a sinister grin. Panic seized her. Ellie scrambled out of bed, her legs shaking. She fumbled for her phone, dialing 911 with trembling fingers. The line remained stubbornly silent. No dial tone, no connection. She was alone. Frantically, she began securing the house. Locks were checked. Deadbolts slid home, chains fastened. She huddled in the corner of her living room, her back against the wall, clutching a kitchen knife. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe she was safe. Relief washed over her, but then the figure remained at the window, unmoving, its glowing eyes burning into her soul. Fear returned, sharper than before. Are you terrified of the unknown lurking in the dark? Hours crawled by. The fog clung to the house, an oppressive presence. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. Exhaustion finally pulled at Ellie, her eyelids heavy. She allowed herself a sliver of hope. Maybe it was gone. Then a voice, not from the window, but from within the room. Ellie, it whispered, closer now, right next to her ear. Another voice joined in, then another, a chorus of whispers. Her eyes snapped open. The voices seemed to emanate from her bedroom, from her closet. The tension built slowly, each whisper growing louder, more insistent. I bet you didn't know how eerie dawn can be. The first rays of dawn pierced through the fog, casting long, distorted shadows across the room, creating an eerie atmosphere. Ellie, still clutching the knife, her body trembling with exhaustion and terror, dared to breathe. The ominous voice was gone. The figure at the window, which had haunted her, vanished. Relief washed over her, followed by a sudden wave of nausea and dizziness. She stumbled to the window, peering out at the street below. Everything seemed normal. Too normal, almost unsettling. The sun glinted off car windshields, birds chirped. An eerie calm settled over the neighborhood. A dog walker passed by, oblivious to the horror that had unfolded within her walls. But Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that the danger was far from over, lurking just out of sight. Are you terrified of being watched? Ellie stared at her reflection in the window pane. Her face, pale and drawn, stared back. Wait. Something wasn't right. Behind her reflection, a dark form began to solidify. The figure, tall and gaunt, its eyes burning with an infernal glow, stood directly behind her. It smiled, a grotesque, chillingly familiar smile. Ellie gasped, realizing with mounting horror that she was trapped. There was no escape. The reflection was her prison, and the sinister figure was her warden, forever watching, forever waiting. She reached out, her fingers trembling, but the glass was cold and unyielding. The figure's smile widened, and Ellie knew she was truly alone. Pause 2S. I will never look at a window the same way after learning this. Ellie stumbled back from the window, her heart racing. The chilling smile of the figure burned into her mind, a haunting image she couldn't shake off. She needed answers. Frantically, she rummaged through the old wooden chest, her fingers trembling with urgency and fear. And then she found it. An old leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age and filled with secrets. October 12th, 1895. The window, it watches. Those who gaze too long are forever marked, the entry read ominously. Ellie's breath caught in her throat. The journal detailed tragic tales of those ensnared by the window's sinister power, each story more horrifying than the last. March 3rd, 1912. We tried to break the window, but it is indestructible. It feeds on our fear, another entry revealed. Ellie realized the figure was a malevolent entity, growing stronger with each soul it captured, thriving on their terror. She had to find a way to break the curse. The journal offered no solutions, only despair and warnings. She would not become another victim. The battle was far from over, and she was ready to fight. This is going to blow your mind. Ellie clutched the journal tightly to her chest, her mind racing with the horrific revelations within its pages. She knew she had to act quickly, but the weight of the journal's secrets pressed heavily on her. As she turned to leave the attic, a cold gust of wind slammed the door shut, plunging the room into darkness. When she finally managed to switch on her flashlight, the beam revealed something that made her blood run cold. The shadow had returned, its form more menacing than ever. The air grew thick with a palpable sense of dread. The shadow had crossed the boundary of the window, entering her world. She had to confront it, face her deepest fears, and find a way to banish it once and for all. With trembling hands, she opened the journal to the last page, hoping for some hidden clue, some forgotten spell that could save her. Ellie steeled herself, drawing on every ounce of courage she had left. The battle was upon her, and she was determined not to let the shadow claim another soul. Ellie raised the journal like a shield, ready to face whatever horrors awaited her. The fight for her soul had begun. Am I the only one that didn't know the power of an ancient journal could save a life? The shadow loomed before Ellie, its malevolent eyes glowing brighter with each passing second. The attic was filled with an oppressive darkness, the air thick with the weight of impending doom. Suddenly, the shadow lunged, its form twisting and contorting as it closed in on Ellie. She raised the journal like a shield, bracing herself for the impact. With a surge of determination, Ellie began to recite the incantation she had found in the journal. The attic seemed to vibrate with the power of her incantation, the air crackling with energy. The shadow recoiled, its form flickering as if struggling to maintain its presence. The light from the journal grew brighter, pushing back the darkness, inch by inch. The shadow let out an ear-piercing screech, its form disintegrating in the face of the overwhelming light. Ellie collapsed to the floor, the journal falling from her hands. She had won, the shadow was gone. I think I messed up. Ellie remained on the floor, her breath coming in slow, deliberate gasps as she processed the enormity of what had just transpired. The oppressive darkness had been replaced by a gentle, soothing light. It was as if the house itself had sighed in relief, freed from the malevolent presence. The shadow's return had been a terrifying ordeal, but it had also been a catalyst for her own personal transformation. Ellie had discovered a strength within herself, a resilience that had carried her through the darkest of times. Ellie picked up the journal, its weight a comforting presence in her hands. As she made her way down the creaky stairs, Ellie felt a sense of peace wash over her. The shadow was gone, and with it the grip of fear that had held her captive for so long. The shadow's return had marked the end of an old chapter, and now she was ready to write the next one. I will never look at an old house the same way after learning this. The house, now eerily quiet, seemed to whisper secrets long buried. Ellie found herself drawn to the study, a room she had rarely entered since moving in. The air was thick with anticipation, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Ellie placed the journal on the old oak desk, its worn surface a testament to years of use. She opened it to the last entry, the ink still fresh and vivid. As she read, the words began to blur, merging with the memories of the past few days. The journal spoke of a hidden room, a place where the original owner had conducted dark rituals to bind the shadow to the house. The true source of the haunting had been the owner's own fear and desperation, a twisted attempt to control the unknown. Ellie felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that the shadow had been a manifestation of the owner's darkest fears, feeding off the terror of those who entered the house. The journal revealed the final step to break the curse, a ritual of light and forgiveness, a way to release the trapped spirits and cleanse the house once and for all. With a newfound determination, Ellie gathered the items listed in the journal. She followed the instructions meticulously, her heart pounding with each step. As she completed the ritual, a blinding light filled the room, illuminating every corner. The oppressive darkness that had haunted her was lifted, replaced by a warm, comforting glow. In that moment, Ellie understood the true power of forgiveness and the strength of her own spirit. The haunting had been a test, a journey to uncover the depths of her own resilience. As the light faded, she felt a profound sense of peace. The house was finally free, and so was she. Ellie closed the journal, a smile tugging at her lips. The final revelation had tied all the previous events together, bringing closure to a chapter that had defined her life. She was ready to move forward, to embrace the future with an open heart and a fearless spirit. Are you haunted by the shadows of your past? As the days turned into weeks, Ellie found herself reflecting on the events that had unfolded in the house. The shadows that once seemed so menacing had been dispelled, replaced by a newfound clarity and peace. The haunting had been more than a series of eerie occurrences. It had been a journey of self-discovery, a test of her courage and resilience. Sitting by the window, Ellie looked out at the garden, now bathed in the soft glow of the morning sun. The birds chirped merrily, and the flowers swayed gently in the breeze. It was a stark contrast to the oppressive atmosphere that had once gripped the house. She realized that the true horror had not been the supernatural events, but the fear and uncertainty that had clouded her mind. The journal, now resting on a bookshelf, had become a symbol of her triumph. It held the secrets of the past, but also the lessons she had learned. Ellie understood that the power of forgiveness and light had not only freed the spirits trapped in the house, but had also liberated her own soul. She had faced her fears and emerged stronger, with a deeper understanding of herself and the world around her. In the quiet moments, Ellie often thought about the original owner of the house. She felt a sense of empathy for the man who had been consumed by his own fears, unable to find peace. His desperate attempts to control the unknown had led to his downfall, but in the end it was his story that had guided her to the truth. Ellie knew that the experience had changed her. She no longer felt the need to run from the past or hide from her fears. Instead, she embraced them, knowing that they were a part of her journey. The house, once a place of dread, had become a sanctuary of healing and growth. With a smile, Ellie rose from her chair and walked to the garden. She felt the warmth of the sun on her face and the soft earth beneath her feet. It was a new beginning, a chance to create a life filled with hope and possibility. The shadows of the past had been banished, and in their place, a bright future awaited. As she tended to the flowers, Ellie whispered a silent thank you to the house and the spirits that had once haunted it. They had taught her the true meaning of strength and forgiveness, and for that, she would always be grateful. The journey had come to an end, but the lessons would stay with her forever. Ellie was ready to face whatever the future held, with an open heart and an unbreakable spirit. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more stories.